We're here at TEDxBeaconStreet, and I'm sitting down with Jack Hidary, chairman of the Hidary Foundation and senior advisor to Google X Labs. Thanks for taking the time.
Great to meet you, Teddy.
So the title of your talk is Do a Moonshot.
Yeah.
Tell me, Jack, what are moonshots?
Well, Teddy, moonshots are near impossible goals that we set for ourselves, goals that seem absolutely crazy, very audacious goals. Yet we now know that with human collaboration, with innovation, we can get these things done. So, of course, examples of moonshots are JFK's mission to the moon, and that was a great moonshot. But moonshots used to be just a province of governments. They used to be just about, large governments had to undertake this massive project, the atom bomb, the Manhattan Project, and the mission to the moon, and things like that. But now, moonshots are actually quite democratized. We can actually do moonshots in the private sector. We can have NGOs do them. We can have nonprofits do them. All kinds of players can get involved in doing moonshots today. And these are the very kinds of things that will change the world.
And so tell me in your words, why is this an idea worth spreading? What made you be like, I need to get on this TED stage. I need to talk about this?
We're at a moment in time right now. We're 7 billion people, moving to 9 billion people. We have some grand challenges. We have challenges such as getting water, clean water, to more than 500 million people on this planet. Clean energy for all of us, for all 7 billion people. Housing for everybody, making sure people have decent housing. These are grand challenges. And if you look at the past 40, 50 years, we've been trying to solve many of these with incremental approaches, just step-by-step approaches, drilling a well here, drilling a well there, things like that. But actually, that's not really going to solve the problem. We need a different approach. So here's the good news. The good news is we now know how to get these things done. We don't have to have moonshots just be these one-off crazy things that happen once in a while. Yeah. We can actually have repeatable success. We have the tools, the techniques, and the data to figure out how to actually achieve these massive goals.
And so you said that the idea of moonshots are changing, are becoming a lot more democratized now. But what if we've obviously taken a lot from these past moonshots, the moon landing, Manhattan Project and stuff. What have we learned from the past ones?
We've learned a lot from the moonshots, not just from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but in the last 20 years, people across the globe have undertaken very interesting moonshots. So the first X Prize, as an example, was a prize of $10 million to go to space twice in 2 weeks in a vehicle that you have to create with no government support allowed. Yeah. And that sounds like a crazy idea. And to many of the people, it was a crazy idea. But sure enough, Burt Rutan and his team did do that, and they won the $10 million. But it didn't stop there. What they really won was not just $10 million, but the opportunity to create a whole new industry. They teamed up with Richard Branson. Richard Branson said, I want to create a whole new service called Virgin Galactic based on the technology from the winning team of X Prize and create a service that now not only democratizes moonshots, democratizes access to space. Every one of us right here at this TEDx right now, everyone listening to this video right now will have the opportunity in our lifetime to go up to space and to see our Earth the way astronauts do. That is amazing.
So, Jack, sort of, if you don't mind, bring it back down to earth for me a little bit. Some of these people watching these videos are saying, do a moonshot. They might be sitting there like, what do you want me to build a spaceship? So, is it just for these grandiose challenges or?
Great question, Teddy. Moonshots can be for some of the grand challenges, and there's 9 or 10 major grand challenges out there. But we can use moonshot thinking in our everyday lives. Yeah. We can use moonshot thinking in our startups. I'm a startup guy, I love startups, and we're applying 10x thinking right. What is 10x thinking? It's one of our tools in the tool chest of moonshot approaches. So 10x says, instead of solving the problem you're trying to solve, why not actually make it harder? Now that sounds counterintuitive. Right. Why would you want to make the problem even harder before you solve it? But it turns out if you actually make the problem 10 times harder, 100 times harder, you actually can come up with solutions that you'd never otherwise come up with. If you say, thinking about your startup, and you say, wait a second, I really want to grow my startup, not just in one city, but in 10 cities simultaneously. Yeah. How would you actually do that? Well, if you use the traditional approach of having to hire people in every one of those cities and building up infrastructure in every city, of course it's going to be difficult to launch in 10 cities simultaneously. But maybe you'll have a different approach, maybe a decentralized distributed approach where people around the country can suddenly be empowered to take up the banner of your company and then run with it. Very much like TEDx itself. If TED just stayed one conference one time a year and having, say, 50 speakers at that one place, well, it'd be successful. But guess what? They said, you know what? How could we actually have lots of TEDs happening? And then TEDx was born. And that actually created exponential growth, not linear growth of more videos, 10%, that created exponential growth, not just the kind of typical linear growth that you'd see with most conferences. TEDx is a 10x kind of thinking. So that's a great example of applying moonshot approaches right here in our everyday lives.
So, Jack, are there any examples out there right now in the real world where this moonshot thinking, if you will, has proven to succeed?
It's very interesting. You look at actually the business world, the startup world. Look at one case study, for example, of Tesla versus Fisker. Everyone probably watching this right now knows about Tesla.
Right.
Very successful company now, $30+ billion in market valuation. But it wasn't always the case. 10 years ago, people thought Tesla was completely nuts.
Right.
The idea of starting a whole new car company in America. People literally said, if you look up the press right now, you'll see people said, not a single new car company started in the United States in 100 years. How could one start now?
Right.
All the more so, a crazy idea of a 100% electric car. In fact, at the same time that Tesla was starting, very soon after that, another company started called Fisker. Now, Fisker seemed a lot more logical. It seemed like Fisker being a car that does electricity and gas, where you don't have that range anxiety. You could use your electricity every day, but then also have a few hundred more miles to go with your gas engine. That seemed to be actually the more logical approach. It's safer, less anxiety, you get where you want to go. And it seems like if you were a venture capitalist, if you had to put money on one or the other, you'd probably put your money on Fisker maybe, because intuitively it sounds like that's the one that should succeed first. Maybe in the future, this crazy idea of an all-electric car might work, But in point of fact, what happened? Tesla won and Fisker went bankrupt. Why? We now understand some of the reasons why. And those reasons are that bolder ideas, more audacious ideas, actually are the lower risk ideas. Why? Because they attract the best and brightest engineers. They attract the best and brightest creative people. They attract more financial capital, because the financial capital now has realized, let me not go with a technology that's going to be commoditized within a year or two. Let me put bets on things that actually have staying power, that has a moat around the castle, because they put enough intellectual property in to think about the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so it turns out in the race of Tesla versus Fisker, Tesla got the greatest engineers. In terms of Tesla versus Fisker, Tesla's one who captured the minds of the consumer. The consumer is captivated by the idea of a bold vision, less captivated by something that is just incremental. So although intuitively when you first think about it, you say, oh, if I'm going to choose between putting my career on the line for an audacious idea or a more incremental idea, the safer one seems to be an incremental one. We now know that actually that's not the case anymore. In this age of smartphones and feedback and media and these videos and TED and so on and so forth, it turns out that ideas do spread very quickly. And as ideas spread, people say, you know what? I want to be with the more audacious idea, the bigger vision. That's what really drives us in our heart. We're partly motivated by maybe some rational sense, but ultimately we're motivated by our hearts. And our hearts go with the bigger vision.
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time. Excellent. Great to be with you. Jack Hidary, the title of his talk is Do a Moonshot. You can check it out at TEDxBeaconStreet.com.